Okay,
Mm.
Fitz, here's my hot take. The budget objection is the laziest objection in sales. And salespeople who accept it at face value, they deserve to lose the deal.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's true. All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fitz and Franson Show. I'm Fitz.
And I'm Franson. And this is a show where we strip away the fluff and get to the core of what it actually takes to win in business and in life.
Today, Jay and I are going to go deep on something that I believe is probably the most important conversation any business owner can have. It's about the sales process. Specifically, we're going to talk about and break down the entire buying decision into four very simple questions.
Yeah. And just for the record, Fitz would think that the sales process is the most important part of a business.
Along with many other smart.
And many others might be. But here's the thing, these aren't questions that we ask the customer. These are the questions the customer is asking themselves, whether they say them out loud or not. And if your sales process and your marketing, which I can get behind, aren't built around answering these four questions, you're leaving money on the table every single day.
So this is going to be a really practical episode. We want to make sure that you as a listener have the ability to walk away with something that you can actually use and be able to implement right away. So Jay, let's go ahead and get into it.
Yeah. So before we get to those four questions, Fitz, I do want to address the elephant in the room, which is why does the sales process matter? A lot of business owners, especially in the trades and home services, resist the idea of formal sales process. They think it makes them sound scripted or robotic. They think their personality is the process.
Yeah. We hear this a lot in the conversations that we have when we're trying to introduce some of this stuff to those particular individuals. And to be quite frank, it's exactly why most of them are stuck. I like to use data, and here's exactly what the data points to or says at least. Harvard Business Review, right, which is a pretty reputable source, has found that companies who formally use or have a formally defined sales process see up to a 28% increase in revenue compared to those that don't have a defined process.
Wow. And that's not even a rounding error. Like that's the difference between a business that's surviving and a business that's like thriving. And it gets better. The Sales Management Association found that 90% of the highest performing companies in the world use a formal guided sales process.
You can't really argue with those data points, but Francis, let me ask you this as a question. If 90% of the top performers are using some sort of process and you're not, what would that tell you about where you are in your market?
Oh man, that's easy. I do like numbers, and that tells me that you're in the 10%. This isn't the top 10%. This is not the good 10%.
Yeah, you're not in necessarily the best of crowds at that point. So it's
Yeah.
exactly right. And the other thing that a process does or can do for you, and this is huge for business owners who are maybe trying to scale at the moment, is it will make your results repeatable. You cannot scale chaos and you can't train someone on, well, go just be yourself, right? But you
Yeah.
can train someone on a process and you can measure it, refine it, and improve it.
Yeah. The process we're going to walk through today is built around one core insight. Every single buying decision a human being makes, from a $5 purchase to a $50,000 home renovation, it's driven by the same four internal questions. So let's talk about them.
Yeah, I'm all for it. So let's break down question number one first. And this is probably the most important question, the one that everything else really depends on. The question is, am I actually going to do something about my current situation? Can I continue to live with this problem, or has the pain become too great, too much?
Yeah, and this is the decision to act. And this is where most salespeople and most marketers can completely miss the mark. They assume that because someone called them or filled out a form, that that person has already decided to act, but they haven't, not yet.
No, I think that that's a really dangerous assumption. They're on their way there, but we have to help them across that finish line. So there's a concept in behavioral psychology called the status quo bias. Human beings, we're all hardwired to resist change. We're not really big fans of it. We will tolerate a tremendous amount of pain and inconvenience to avoid the uncertainty of making a decision based of fear, right? The devil you know is better than the devil that you don't, period.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is that your biggest competitor isn't actually another company down the street. Your biggest competitor is actually the customer doing nothing at all.
So it's great that we know the question. How do we help the customer answer yes to that first question, right? You have to make the cost of inaction feel greater than the cost of change, or at least the fear of that cost, right? You have to agitate the pain, not to necessarily manipulate them in a way. You have to be, honest. You have to be empathetic. What is the real cost of doing nothing for this particular homeowner in front of you?
Yeah. Yeah. And, this is where it really starts with marketing and they need to do their job. The phrase is problem aware or problem unaware. And this is top of funnel stuff. You're introducing the customer to maybe something they knew about or not. But either way, it is your job as the marketer to get that in front of them. So your marketing message for question one is not, we're the best company. Hey, look at us. It's, here's what happens if you don't solve this problem. It's showing them that the leaky roof that becomes a structural problem, an outdated kitchen that's killing your family's quality of life, a cracked, embarrassing driveway that's the first thing every guest sees when they pull up.
Yeah. You guys do a great job of this at Powerful. I know weaving this message in of like the lost opportunity to take care of a problem combined with the dream of the solution, I think is a, forgive me on the pun, a very powerful message that you all send out. So it starts with that message. It makes our job on the sales side a little easier when we get to the door. So there's definitely some added value for that for sure. So look, I mean, at the end of the day, I think the thing that's important is whether it's on the marketing side or the sales side, you're not just selling a product, right? You're really not just selling the product. You're selling the relief from the pain that they've been really tolerating to this point. And until they feel that pain acutely enough to want the relief for it, they're not going to be a buyer.
Yeah, and there's another side to this coin, and this is important too, is that some customers are actually motivated by pleasure, not pain. They're keeping up with the Joneses type of thing. They're not fixing a problem. They're chasing an upgrade. A dream kitchen, a stunning garage, or a backyard that feels like a resort. Those marketing needs and the way you market to them needs to speak to both motivations, that fear and that pleasure.
Yeah, it's an excellent point, right? So pain or pleasure in either instance, either way, the customer really has to decide that the pain is something they can no longer live with, but maybe equally as important, if not more importantly at times, that the pleasure is something that they can no longer live without.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. So the customers decided that they're going to act. They're in motion. Now they start looking for a solution. And the very first filter they apply is trust. So question two is, have I found a company I can actually trust?
Yeah, this is the basis of the trust question for where we're at, and the data on this is really truly sobering. It's something like 92, I think it's 92% of consumers say when polled that they will hesitate to buy when there are no customer reviews available. It's a staggering number. 93%
Yeah.
of them say online reviews directly impact their purchasing decision. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. We live in a world with so much fake and phony and fraud. And so people are really hesitant and even terrified of being ripped off. And so, especially in the home services, where you're inviting someone into your home, where the price tag is significant, and where the work is hard to evaluate if you're not an expert. And so they're actively looking for reasons to disqualify you.
Yeah. And look, here's the thing that I think most business owners don't really truly understand. That trust is built far before the sales appointment, far before me or any
Yeah.
of the other salespeople in the world get there. Your marketing is your trust building engine, your trust building machine. Your Google reviews, your testimonials, your before and after photos, your social media presence, right? And your community involvement, all of it is working to answer question number two before I ever or any other salesperson gets a chance to shake someone's hand at a door.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, if you have to spend the first 20 minutes of your sales appointment building trust from scratch, explaining who you are, why you're credible, why they should even believe you, your marketing has pretty much already failed.
Yeah, if I can interject maybe a personal story here from early in my career, Jay. I worked for a company that was really good at getting us into the home. But if you went online, the reviews that were online were not great about our reputation and how maybe pushy we were in the home as a whole. And I would spend the vast majority of time having to overcome that. Our marketing didn't pay that much attention to our online reputation. And I would spend,
Mhm.
like I said, 20, 30, 40 minutes having to talk about, well, they're not talking about the product or the install or this, that, or the other. And you're fighting this uphill battle that really doesn't need to be there. And all that needed to be there was, hey, we're a good company that's doing things the right way. And yeah, there's one or two bad eggs. So some of it's standards that need to be held a little tighter on the sales side. But marketing also could be doing a better job of pushing out all the good that we're doing in the world as well, too. So again, marketing plays a critical part in this. For sure. I know you guys see that on the powerful side on a regular basis as well. So it's
Yeah.
just felt like a good interjection there. So look, so what does trust building and marketing really look like? It definitely looks like, I think video testimonials from real customers. I think those things go a long way. The Google profile with hundreds of 5-star reviews, if you can get them, hustle after them and go get them. Showing your team's faces, right? Real people doing real work, not hiding behind like just a logo or the brand. I think that's important as well too. It looks like being transparent about your process and your structure and your warranties as much as humanly possible, putting that stuff out there.
Yeah, I have one of my customers' campaigns that I'm running currently is screen grabs of their Google reviews. They've got some people that they did work for that took pictures of their project and uploaded it to their Google review and said, this company came out and did this. It's excellent. Here are the pictures. Screen grab those, move them into a campaign, and you get to brag about what you do so well and also build that trust in that advertisement. So it's great. And to that point, like you said, hundreds of Google reviews, it looks like showing up consistently. A company that posts once every 3 months on social media doesn't feel like a company that's going to be around to honor their warranty. Consistency signals stability, and stability signals trust.
For sure. And the goal is for the customer to feel like they already know who you are and already trust you
Mhm.
before you walk in the door. When that happens, the sale is really yours to lose. It truly is. All right. So we got a yes on acting. And now, we've done a good job of a yes on the trust. Now we have to get to question number three. And question number three is, have I found a product that actually solves my problem and fits what I want, right? Checks a little bit of that want box as well too. And notice
Mhm.
that they're both important, right? They both go hand in hand together because the functional solution and the emotional want are critically important to getting to a yes.
Yeah, you can speak more to this as well, but I noticed this is where a lot of salespeople leave money on the table. They get laser focused on the technical specs of their product, the R value of the insulation, or the PSI rating of the coating, or the gauge of the steel. And they forget that the customer doesn't actually care about any of that. What they care about is the outcome.
For sure. Yeah. Again, a lot of smart people at Harvard. So I quote a lot of Harvard studies for sure. But there was a Harvard professor famously found that, again, another data point for you, about 95% of purchasing decisions are driven by the subconscious mind, by emotion, right? And
Mhm.
we used to think that everything was based logically, right? Give me a lot of data, I put it on a spreadsheet, whiteboards, all of those things. But that's not true. People buy on emotion and justify with logic. The logic is the specs that you just mentioned, right? The R values, PSI, all of that
Mhm.
stuff. The emotion is really the feeling. And that's the button we got to try to hit a little bit harder, a little bit more consistently.
Yeah. So that means that your sales process actually has to uncover both of those layers. What is the functional problem we're solving? That's kind of the easy one. But what is the emotional win the customer is really after? And because if you only sell to the functional problem, you're just a commodity. Anyone can solve the functional problem, right? We see a lot of people that show up and say, I can give you this for less. But if you sell to the emotional win, the pride, the relief, the joy, the status, at that point, you become irreplaceable.
Yeah, and this has to show up in your marketing too, right? Don't just sell like durable concrete coatings. Sell a garage you're proud to show off, and don't just sell like an exterior paint. Sell the house that turns heads on the street, right? The best house on your block, right? Connect the features and the feelings as often as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question in your marketing that you're answering here is, does this product solve my specific problem and give me the outcome I'm dreaming about? If your marketing is only speaking to features, you're missing half of the conversation.
Okay, so we got Yep, pretty good at math at this point. We got three yeses. Okay. Now, the final question here for you, Jay. Does this reasonably fit into my budget? And I want to be careful with that word reasonably here because it really is doing quite a bit of work in that sentence.
Yeah, that budget question, it's the final logical justification for this emotional decision that the customer has already made. By the time they get to question four, they want to say yes. They decided to act, they trust you, they love the product. Now they just need to be able to justify it to themselves and, sometimes to their spouse.
And here's the truth that most, I think, salespeople need to hear. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. If a customer says,
Mhm.
I can't afford it, what they're usually saying is you haven't shown them enough value yet. The price objection is almost never really about the price itself.
Yeah, it's a signal. And it's the customer telling you that one of the first three questions hasn't been fully answered. Maybe they're not in enough pain yet. Maybe they don't fully trust you yet. Maybe they haven't connected the product to the emotional outcome they want. The budget objection is your cue to go back and do more work on questions one, two, or three. Now, your marketing plays a role here too. You should be pre framing value before the appointment. Testimonials that say things like, it's worth every penny. Case studies that show the long term ROI, content that positions your product as an investment, not an expense. You're setting the expectation that quality has a price and that price is justified.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, for you salespeople out there that are listening right now, when you get to the price conversation, for the love of God, slow down, right?
Yeah.
Don't rush it. Don't get nervous. Nervousness is absolutely contagious. You're giving that feeling to them on the other side of the table. If you're confident in your price, the customer will be too. If you flinch, they will flinch. Right? The
Yeah.
goal is not to have the lowest price. It really shouldn't be anywhere close to that. The goal is to build so much value that your price seems to be a bargain for the problem it's solving and the outcome it's going to deliver.
Yeah. All right. One of the things we love to do on this show is hot takes, Fitz. So why
Mhm.
don't you start? I'm sure you've got one teed up.
No problem. So, all right, how about this one, Jay? Hot take number one. If your marketing isn't explicitly built around answering these four questions, it's just expensive brand awareness with no ROI.
Oh, I agree. And I'll
Okay.
go further. Some small business marketing is completely disconnected from the sales process. The marketing team or the owner who's doing the marketing is thinking about likes and followers and impressions. But then the salesperson in the field is trying to close a deal. Those two things have to be connected. Your marketing should be setting up the sale, not just building the brand. Okay,
Mm.
Fitz, here's my hot take. The budget objection is the laziest objection in sales. And salespeople who accept it as at face value, they deserve to lose the deal.
Uh, okay. Uh, that's going to make some people uncomfortable, but yeah, I think you're right. I think it's true. When a customer says budget, the average salesperson says, okay, I understand, and walks away, right? They pack up pretty quickly and leave. Look, I think even some of us are guilty of being in a rut and do that as well too at times. Look, the great salesperson or the good salespeople hear budget or that's a lot or some sort of price objection and thinks, which of the first three questions did I not answer well enough? And they go back to work, right? They dig in and they hang out for a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's exactly like the budget objection. It's a symptom. It's not the disease. Treat the disease.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, one more here for you while we're hanging out in the segment. Most home services businesses don't actually have a sales process. They have, let's call it a sales habit. And habits are hard to scale, impossible to train, and invisible when they break.
Yeah. And I would say that this is the most important thing we've said today. A habit is what one person does, a process is what an organization does. Big distinction. And if your sales success lives entirely in your head or in the head of your best rep, you don't have a business. You actually have a dependency.
Yeah, well said. Well put there. All right, let's bring this home. We've I feel like gone through a lot and given some good nuggets here, Jay.
Oh,
The four questions, just to kind of recap it, but the four questions every buyer is asking whether they say them out loud or not. Number one, am I going to do something about my current situation? Can I live with this, or has the pain become too great? Number two, have I found a company that I can trust? Trust with my home in our world. That's a big deal, right?
yeah, yeah.
Number three, have I found a product that solves my problem and fits my wants? And number four, does it reasonably fit my budget?
Yeah. your entire business, your marketing, your sales process, your follow up, your customer experience. These things need to be engineered to get a resounding yes to all four. So stop chasing closing techniques. Start building a process that guides your customer through this natural decision making journey.
Absolutely. And again, I think these are fundamental decision making questions for almost any decision we make, right? And everything we're doing needs to be geared towards helping a homeowner through these processes, from the first message they receive on marketing to the first handshake we have at the sales process, all the way through contract signing. If we're not doing something to help them out with that, we're missing a mark somewhere in one of those processes for sure. So, look, if you found value in today's episode, do us a favor, like and subscribe, find the bell wherever it is on the screen here, and ring it for us, and share it with one of those business owner friends of yours out there who needs to hear it. That's how we grow this show, and it helps us keep bringing some content that actually helps move the needle for people out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you want to learn more or talk about how to help answer these questions, we'll include links in the show to schedule time with us. We are happy to help.
Absolutely. Hey, and be sure to tune in to our next episode. We're going to be joined by a blast from my past, TJ Moon. TJ has some real world in the field experience from his days at Renewal by Anderson all the way to where he is today in his actually new role as a national sales director. You're not going to want to miss it. He's got some great insights, there's no doubt.
Yeah. And I got to say, I am especially excited to get the dirt on the early days of working with you, Fitz. I think it should be a good one for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure he's
Yeah.
got a couple of fun stories he'll be wanting to share with you, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking forward to it. So until next time, I'm Franson.
I'm Fitz. Happy hunting, everybody.